Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. Today we are looking at top tips for group consolidation in CaseWare. This is an introductory level webinar, so we'll be taking you through some key areas. It's myself and Phil Reeves today. So my name is Tom Jeffrey. I'm one of the education and media technicians at CaseWare UK, and I'm joined by Phil Reeves, one of our EMT consultants. So we're going to be sort of sharing the presenting duties today. We're going to keep it sort of more of a conversation style, a bit more informal than usual. We have got an excellent turnout today, so thanks all for joining us. Because of the volume of you that have joined us, we've got our EMT manager, Georgina Walker, hovering in the background to assist with answering your questions. Talking of questions, you can use the question field in the GoToWebinar control panel there. I'll do my best, or Georgie and I will do our best to get back to you as soon as we can during the session. But if we don't get back to you straight away, don't worry, we'll email you after the session. We're also going to be putting together a Q&A document, which will be on the knowledge base, and that will accompany the recording of the webinar. That recording will also be available on our YouTube channel, that's CaseWare UK Client Services. So first of all, we're going to start. First of all, I'll introduce Phil. So hello, Phil.
Hello, Tom. Hello, should just be popping up on your screen now.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Good, yes, great, thank you. So I'm not going to read through the agenda there because you can all see it. But as you can see, that's the agenda. I'll pass over to Phil and we'll get underway.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. So today's webinar, we're going to be going through, as Tom said, some of the areas to do with group consolidations, and what we'd like you to do, as well as the questions that you can obviously upload onto the question panel. We also want to gauge or get an idea of if there are specific areas within group consolidations that you'd like us to cover. Ideally, on the back of this, we'd want to create further webinars where we focus specifically on the questions that you have. On today's webinar, we're just going to start with the very basics, the consolidation entity type. So what type of accounts can we create consolidations on? Now to do that, I have just got the next slide, which we can see there are three main templates that we can create consolidated accounts on. Within the Accounts Advanced Charity and Academy template, if your parent company is a charity or academy, then you can prepare consolidated accounts with a traded subsidiary that is prepared under FRS 102. So you can consolidate a 102 entity with the charity if that is the parent entity. Within the Company Accounts Advanced template, if the company is obviously reporting under FRS 102, 101, 105, it's an unlisted company, or if it's a limited liability company, then again we can consolidate with another 101, 102 or 105 entity if we need to. We're going to be focusing on a 102 file today during today's webinar, but the process and the areas that we covered today will also be applicable to these other templates you can see. And finally, the Accounts Advanced IFRS template. So if your parent company is reporting under IFRS, then you can consolidate that with a subsidiary that is also reporting under IFRS, or if the parent company is FRS 101, then you can create a group IFRS file with a parent FRS 101 notes and disclosures built into that file. Now, Tom, our first point today, setting up a group consolidation. Do you want me to take us through that bit? Okay, it looks like we've lost Tom. So, Tom, I will take us through that.
I'm here. I've returned.
Excellent.
Yes, Phil, would you mind taking us through the process for setting up a group consolidation? Yep. I think first of all, we're going to be going through the process, assuming that you have a CaseWare file that you want to consolidate.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, so if you've got a separate CaseWare files for your subsidiaries and obviously the parent company will act as the group file. So you don't need a group file and a parent file unless you are creating single entities for that, a single entity set of accounts for that parent. Now, in this case, we're going to imagine, obviously, we're creating group consolidation. Our parent company, ABC Holdings Limited, has a subsidiary, ABC Exhibitions Limited, that is also a CaseWare file. Now, for those of you that are aware of the consolidation process, to consolidate a CaseWare file to another, we would go to Engagement and the Consolidate button over here. This will load up our consolidation tree where we can add in new entities, new subsidiaries, which make up the group as part of our parent company, ABC Holdings Limited. To do that, we can click on New, and we can simply insert a name for our subsidiary. So ABC Exhibitions Limited. An abbreviation will automatically appear based on the name that we've inserted. Obviously, if I want to go in and change the abbreviation, then I can do simply by typing into the field provided. Now, beneath this, we've got our external source for entity details. So where we are picking this up from another CaseWare file, we will need to select existing file, click the browse button, and just locate the CaseWare file that we want to consolidate this to. So in this case, our ABC Exhibitions Limited, and I can click OK. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to pull the information from the subsidiary file into our parent. So it's going to pull the trial balance, and it's going to pull the final figure, so after any adjustments have been made in that subsidiary file. There are some options below that we need to consider. The first being including prior balances. Now, the first time you do your consolidation, you're going to want to include the prior balances, so the prior year information. The reason for this is obviously we want to include the figures for comparative purposes. But what we want to make sure we do is after we consolidate for the first time, we come back into this screen and just deselect this option. We're going to deselect it because if we're doing eliminating journals relating to the prior year for things like non-controlling interest, or if we're doing general journals in the prior year that relate to our subsidiary within the parent company, we don't want to override those figures during future consolidations. Now, the other options, including budgets, forecasts, and custom balances, we're not going to look to, you can include those if you want. They're not widely used amongst our clients, so but if you want to include those, you can do. The options on the left-hand side, excluding zero balance accounts, will exclude any subsidiary accounts that have got zero on them, or enabling account synchronization will simply take the mapping from the subsidiary and apply it into the parent file. If you're doing a charity and a charity file which is being consolidated with a 102 subsidiary, then you may want to deselect the account synchronization or even select to unmap the new external code, just because the mapping structure within the charity and the company is slightly different.
Also, Phil, worth pointing out for the audience that if you want to have a look at these options in a bit more detail, or if you'd like anything clarified, we do have a handout which we've included in the control panel there. You can download that as a PDF, and we've got links to various articles, and included in that will be a bit more detail on these options. Yeah,
excellent. The Getting Started guide especially has been put together by Tom. It is an excellent guide. Also talks you through the various areas as Tom has mentioned. For now, I'm going to click OK. And that will bring through our subsidiaries information in terms of on the consolidation tree. What you'll notice is we've got an icon here, a warning icon. Now that's telling us that although we've included the subsidiary on the consolidation tree, the information isn't yet pulling through into our parent company. So we just need to select Consolidate All or Apply, which will then consolidate the files and bring the subsidiary information into the parent file, which when I click OK, you can see now we've got an entity column on the left-hand side, which is spitting out our parent and subsidiary figures. If I want to include view those separately, then I can click the drop down and I can select our subsidiary just to view the subsidiary's information. Now, Tom, that was linking between two CaseWare files. What would you? What's our next?
So that was excellent. A good overview of how you would add a subsidiary if it's an existing CaseWare file. So really, now we want to see how you would consolidate if you don't have a CaseWare file.
Yes, I know that is a popular point with a lot of our clients. They will, if you don't need a CaseWare file for the subsidiary, you don't have to just create one just for the consolidation process. You don't need to. You can create the consolidation again by clicking the consolidation button and essentially create the subsidiary within the parent entity. So now when I select new, if I create a subsidiary, ABC Promotions Limited, rather than selecting an existing file, instead I can leave this option selected as none, which when I click OK, you'll see that the icon looks very similar to the top level icon, which is telling us that this subsidiary is housed within the parent file. Now that's obviously helpful in terms of the fact that you obviously don't need to maintain two CaseWare files, one for ABC Promotions Limited and one for the parent. But it also means that we can import our trial balance for ABC Promotions Limited directly into ABC Holdings Limited. Now, due to time restrictions today, we won't go through that import process, but again, Tom has already mentioned the handout. If anyone is unsure of the process of importing into a parent file, if it's your subsidiary's information, then feel free to jump onto the handout and there's a useful guide on there for you. Now, whilst that's loading up, I'm just going to jump back to our PowerPoint presentation. And Tom, the next point we just wanted to look at is, and it's a question we have quite often, the lead schedules within a CaseWare file will show the parent and the subsidiaries information, but is there a better way of displaying all this information for the entities? Can we create almost a consolidated lead schedule?
You absolutely can, and there's a very handy, simple option. It's a very straightforward process. So straightforward, in fact, that I'm going to be the one demonstrating it to you now. So if we are in the, let's assume you're already in the document manager here. This process is something that you can apply to all lead schedules, but we're going to use as an example the trial balance. There might be a little bit of a delay here with my mouse because I'm actually piggybacking onto Phil's machine through the power of the internet. So we've got the trial balance here. We're going to open that up. And we can see it's already there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that off for a sec. So you can see that the way that it would usually present without activating the option that I'm about to show you that you didn't just see, that it would all be a bit of a muddle. It will be mixed in together. So you can see on the left-hand side, we've got the account numbers and then we've got all of the subsidiaries and the parent all in together. So if you right-click and you go to your properties, you'll see there is a tick box here for consolidated view. Very straightforward. Click the box and OK. And what it will do now is it will then give you a column, dedicated column for each of the subsidiaries and the parent. So that's much clearer. Again, it's still an account number order, so you have got other customization options within the properties. So if we go back into there, we have the order option here. Currently it's set by account. We can put it into, let's go for map per number. I know that's one of your favorites, Phil.
Yeah, it is.
And again, you've got the dedicated columns there, but it is now split into map per number order. So simple as that, just a tick box in the properties.
Excellent, thank you, Tom. Just jump to our next point on the presentation, eliminating journals. What would you like to know about eliminating journals, Tom?
Yeah, so really in terms of your adjustments, so how do we, it's intercompany adjustments really is what we want to look at. So how do we account for the intercompany adjustments within the template?
Okay, yeah, that is again, it's a question that we do get asked quite often on our support department, and whilst we're delivering training on the group consolidation course. Now, just to point out, we have jumped into a different file. If everyone's wondering why we've suddenly got 4 engagements, why they've all changed names, we have jumped into a second CaseWare file. But to create the eliminating journals, we can go to the adjusting entries tab at the top of the screen. You can also press Control and J to access this screen. And if I select new, as you can see, we have already got a number of journals in this file. But if I select new, there's different options here that I'm sure you're all well aware of. But the main thing you need to make sure that you select is from the type, there is an option for an eliminating journal. And obviously these eliminating journals can be used to for intercompany balances. So if you are doing an adjustment for investment in a subsidiary, or if we just click on the drop down, we've got some examples in this file. So if we were doing an adjustment for non-controlling interest, or no, not that, that was completely the wrong one. If we're doing an adjustment for loans to a subsidiary or dividends, for example, what you'll notice is that we've got an entity column available on the left-hand side, which is essentially the way that we can ensure that we are eliminating from the subsidiary into the group. And now when we're using the eliminating journals, they won't affect the parent-only figures. So those lines here that are appearing as part of Dragon Limited will affect the group, but will not affect our parent figures. But it's essentially, Tom, a case of making sure that you select eliminating from the adjustment type. Now I'm going to chuck you on the spot here, Tom, and going to look at not consolidated lead schedules again, but we're actually going to look at populating notes within or with parent-only figures. So if I've got a note on the accounts and I want to pull through a figure that only relates to the parent and not the entire group, how would I do that within the accounts? Now I'll just jump you onto the accounts, obviously on my screen, just to make it a little bit easier for you.
Yeah, so we've got a note that we prepared earlier, which is a jump down here. You can see we've got a company turnover note, and actually it's blank because it's one that we've inserted. So we're going to use the cell here, and we're just going to show you an easy amendment to cell calculation. So if we were to click on the current year under the table tab, we've got the cell, the configure cell button here. So we're going to click on that, and it's asking for a calculation. We could go into here and put the calculation in manually, but that's not really necessary. We're going to use the linkage icon here. So if we go into linkage, we're going to, if you're not too familiar with this screen, then of course this is currently filtered by full map number, and we do know the map number, but actually for this exercise, we're just going to go to the top level because that's all we really need. We're going to scroll down to our turnover figure there, and we're just going to click the plus to add that in as the calculation. So what that's going to do is give you the overall figure, which isn't the one that we want. So if we go into the calculation here, what we want to do is we want to just click before the YR0, help if I actually click in the right place, and then we are going to put in PAR, that's for parent, and then a colon. So you can see that has updated to show the parent only figures. I'm just going to show you that again on the prior year cell. So linkage, and then we'll go to the top level just to make it easier. Down to the turnover figure, add that in, then we'll go into the calculation just before the Y, PAR colon, okay. And then if we confirm those calculations, that should update with our figures. Just give it a chance to think about that. It's just executing script at the moment, and then we can see those figures have come through. So that's how you would change your calculations to show parent-only figures. So that's it. So that's of course we've got the recording. We're recording this now. So if you wanted to watch that process back, then the recording will be available on the knowledge base and on YouTube. But again, we've got some additional guidance, which is available as part of the handout that we put in the handout section. So I'll pass you back to Phil.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Also on that point, sorry, for those of you that are familiar with the note builder tool, you can also use that same process that Tom just mentioned on the note builder to pull through your parent only figures. Tom, another question for you. The detailed profit and loss by default will show the company figures and the breakdown of the company information, but what about if I want to show a breakdown of my consolidated information within PPL?
Yeah. So similar principle really to when we were looking at the journals, when we were, sorry, the lead schedules, when we were changing it to a consolidated view. You can see that I've been given all of the easy ones today. So if we go into the detailed profit and loss here, you can see at the top of the summary, we have our little question mark icon. That will bring up the options here. And the top option here is check the box to show consolidated group detailed P&L. We'll tick that box and then we'll click on the exit to confirm that. We'll give it a chance just to think about it. What it will also do, so it's not just going to update the summary, but it's also going to update the notes to the detailed accounts as well. So if we scroll further down and we look at the different sections, then we'll be able to see that those figures have updated to reflect the consolidated figures as well. So nice and easy, that one. So that's my easy bits out the way. We're going to pass back to Phil. We're going to go for the big one, which is how do we roll forward to next year once we've completed all the work on this year's accounts?
Yes, thank you, Tom. Yeah, this again is something we get a lot of questions on, the year-end close, the process that we need to run. And I'm sure you're all aware of how we run the year-end close on a CaseWare file. So I'm just again opened up the CaseWare file. We can go to the engagement toolbar and there's an option here for the year-end close. Within that year-end close option, we can obviously insert the name of the file for next year's file, the path that we want to create that file on, and there's various options here. So we can compress the prior year file. We want to make sure we update the prior year balance data, and we want to essentially make sure as well that we update case view roll forward cells. Now, when you're doing the year-end close, it's important to make sure that you do deselect this option to update the next year's opening balance data with. The reason for that is it will try and, or this is used to calculate retained earnings, especially on the profit and loss. So you can set it up to collate all of the P&L information and insert that into retained earnings in next year's file. The problem with this is if we try and use this option on a group file, it's going to take into account your consolidated information, which in theory is going to make the retained earnings on your parent the retained earnings for the entire group, which we don't really want to do. So it's important to make sure that we deselect this. The difference in terms of the year-end close is very much in the process that we follow in terms of the order of which we run the year-end close on the parent and the subsidiaries. I'm just going to take you through the process and the order of which you would need to do it. So as you can see, we've got a slide for the year-end close steps. Our first step would be to run the year-end close on our subsidiary file. So just going back to our example for ABC Holdings Limited and ABC Exhibitions Limited, if I open that up here on the consolidated tree, what we would need to do first is roll forward. So we would need to go into ABC Exhibitions Limited and we would need to roll that file forward, in this case to the 2020 file, before we did anything on the group file. We would then be able to go through and obviously if there are other subsidiaries, we would also do the roll forward on those. So all of our subsidiary files are rolled forward before we do anything on the parent or group file. Now at that stage, we would then go through to our parent and group file and roll that file forward. So our ABC Holdings Limited file, we would be able to go through and run the year-end close in very much the same process that I've just showed. And now once we've run the year-end close on our parent and we've obviously rolled forward all the subsidiaries, before we do any work, it's important to relink the subsidiary CaseWare files with the parent. Now, as you can see, this would essentially be a case of going into the consolidated tree again and selecting the properties and browsing to the new subsidiary file, so the 2020 subsidiary file. Obviously making sure that we deselect again, or we make sure that this option to include prior year balances is deselected because the prior year data is already in our group file. So all we're looking to pull through in the future is the current year's information for that subsidiary. So again, it'd just be a case of going to browse and locating the 2020 file for ABC Exhibitions Limited. And obviously we would have to follow the same process for all the other subsidiary files that we might have as part of this group. Now, once that's done, we would be able to then begin work on our subsidiary and parent and group files. So we would be able to, if we're creating a set of accounts for the subsidiary, we can go into there, we can import the information, we can build the accounts, we can do any work we need to do on there, and the same for the parent company. But it is important that we make sure, essentially, that the main point here is that we roll forward the year-end, or we roll forward the subsidiary files, we run the year-end close on the subsidiary files before we do anything on that parent file. Now, obviously, if anyone's unsure of that year-end close process, again, the handout has got a useful link to our knowledge base, which also contains a video showing you the process that you need to follow, and again, explaining what we've seen. And as Thomas mentioned, we are going to put this webinar on the knowledge base, so that you can watch it back if you need to, or if you're unsure. Now, Tom, obviously we've left plenty of time for questions. I don't know if you've had any questions come in. I can see that the question panel on my GoToWebinar keeps flashing up, so hopefully there's lots of questions and lots of points that people want us to cover in a future webinar to do with group consolidations. But I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, so we have got some questions come through, and thank you for those. There are a couple that we need to just gather some more information on, so we will get back to you directly if we don't do on the live. Actually, an excellent one that's come through, or a little prompt that's come through that I think would be handy to show everyone is, would you be able to go into the wizard, into the start section, and just give us an overview of the consolidation options in there?
Yes, absolutely fine. Let me just wait for this to execute the script on our Dragons Holdings Limited file. As with all things, when it's live, it'll always take an extra moment just to frustrate Tom and I.
I can ask you a quick question while we wait, if you like. We have another couple of. So, can you consolidate? Oh, we've got some updates as well. So, can you consolidate FRS 101 subsidiary files into an IFRS consolidated file?
Yes, you can.
Excellent.
I don't know how much more I could add to that, but yes, you can. Obviously, if your parent file is a if your group file is a IFRS, then you can consolidate FRS 101 entities up to that. Obviously, there's quite similarities in terms of the disclosures between IFRS and FRS 101. You wouldn't be able to do a consolidation between a 102 and a 105, just because of the differences. I've managed to open up this screen, Tom.
Let's have a look at the wizard. I've got an excellent one to follow about rounding as well. So let's do this. Let's do the wizard.
Excellent. Okay, so yeah, when you go into the wizard, during the engagement setup process, you'll notice that we've got the option to select that this is a member of a group. As a result of that, selecting that it's a member of a group will then give us the options, the category options for essentially telling CaseWare what type of group this is. So whether it be a parent company or a subsidiary company. Selecting parent companies, you can see, is pretty straightforward. We just say what size is the group. Is it a small group, a medium group, or is it a large group? If we were to select subsidiary, then we get the option to say whether it's got its own subsidiaries or whether it's got no subsidiaries. If it's got its own subsidiaries, what size is the group that's forming? So the subsidiary, essentially the subsidiaries groups. So for example, if Tom was the parent and I was his subsidiary and I had my own subsidiaries, what size is the group that my group of companies is forming? Is it small, medium or large? And again, depending on the options that we select, we'll adjust what we can see beneath. One thing just to point out, obviously, if it is if you're doing a subsidiaries set of accounts and it's got no subsidiaries, then again, you can select here. You still will be creating single entity accounts rather than group accounts. But if it is a subsidiary company with its own subsidiaries, you'll get the option for a group consolidation. In terms of the rest of the options, pretty much what we would expect to see throughout a standard wizard. The main thing that you might notice is that when we go into the director section, we've got a separate area within the director's benefits to insert our subsidiaries benefits in kind. Obviously, the company's information will automatically pull through from the map codes. If you're unsure of what map codes they will actually pull through from, then feel free to drop a message in the chat and we can highlight the map codes that populate each of these cells. Tom, back to you.
Excellent, thanks, Phil. We've got some really good questions come in, but we are now in extra time. So as we're a couple of minutes over, we'll move on to just look at a couple of wrap-up slides. So all of our webinars are recorded, as many of you know, so we upload those to the knowledge base shortly afterwards. We now also put them on our CaseWare UK Client Services YouTube channel, so we'll let you know when those are available to view. That will be very shortly. I expect that'll be ready tomorrow. In terms of our upcoming webinars, we've got our schedule, which is on the events page of our website. So you can look at the agendas for those. As you can see, we've got a few coming up, but this schedule is being updated all the time. So pop over to the events page of our website and you'll be able to keep up to date with those. So thank you very much for joining us today, all of you. We hope you've enjoyed it. And again, if you've got any questions, please get in touch with us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks to Phil and thanks to Georgie for helping to monitor your questions in the background. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you, everyone.